Hello, Mark Littlewood. So the first question we were going to ask is that many have called for a second referendum. What do you think is the best process for the public to have input on the process of leaving the EU?
A general election.
Okay.
The last general election in May 2015 was won by a party that pledged to attempt to renegotiate our membership of the EU and put it to the people. And that renegotiation was rejected, and the people decided it wasn't good enough, they want to leave. I don't think we can have a second referendum because there are a million or more choices that are potentially available to us. The ballot paper would be longer than the yellow pages in terms of the various options you could tick. So it doesn't lend itself to a referendum. But I think there is a case that we need a renewed public mandate. Certainly nobody at the last general election was casting their ballot in any way thinking what Brexit might look like, right? Yeah. Brexit wasn't on the agenda. So I think the best way to resolve it is there should be a general election in relatively short order. I know the Prime Minister is saying she won't call one. I hope she does call one, say, next spring, spring of next year, after she's triggered Article 50. So the referendum pledge has been met. We're definitely leaving. The countdown has started. And then the British public, in their wisdom, should choose between different political parties with different manifestos as to what Brexit should look like. Worth just saying as a rider, though, what it looks like isn't totally in the hands of the UK. Okay? You can decide to leave the European Union unilaterally. You can't decide what your future relationship with the European Union looks like unilaterally. That requires the other side to agree. We can't vote for wanting a free trade deal with America. That requires the Americans to agree. But we can vote, I think, for a fresh parliament with a new mandate to decide what Britain's place in the world is now we've decided to leave the EU.
Great, thank you. So this morning a document supposedly leaked which revealed that the government has no knowledge of, no plans for how to leave the EU, and they've recently rejected that, but it does raise the question of the extent of how much the British public know about the process of leaving the EU. Do you think that we should be told more? Do you think the government has handled this situation well?
I think they've been a bit slow. They're between a rock and a hard place, okay? Because essentially they're playing a hand of poker, and the media and the British public are saying, tell us what's in your hand. And if you tell everybody what's in your hand when you're playing a hand of poker, you are at a disadvantage when you're trying to win the pot in the middle of the poker table. So a balance needs to be struck here. What worries me, I have no particular inside intelligence on this, is the government moving towards knowing its own mind? Do they at least know their own hand, even if they're not revealing it? If there's any suggestion they don't, and some of the news this morning was they have no clue what game they're playing, that's a problem. How much they reveal, I think they should take a little bit of time on. The media is ravenous about this. They want a running commentary every morning, noon and night. But I think that the aim of the Prime Minister and the government should be to reveal at the time that we trigger Article 50. Here is the broad thrust of our strategy and what we would like to get out of our relationship with the EU and the rest of the world. They can't give that as a promise because it depends on the EU and the rest of the world. But I think that's probably the appropriate time to reveal it. If they haven't actually told us a bit more about their hand and their red lines by March of next year, then I'm going to start to worry that they don't know what the hell they're doing. Yeah. But I'm willing to give them until then.
So you wrote in the Telegraph before the Brexit referendum that you supported the Leave campaign. So lots of the students in Cambridge and across the country voted to remain. What would you say to the students to console them? What would you say that students have to look forward to in Britain and the rest of the UK outside of the EU?
Well, the first thing I'd say is I understand why students voted Remain, I think, because when I was a student, I hasten to add at Oxford University, not Cambridge University, so you may need to cut and delete the film now. I was a passionate pro-European, because I think it speaks, in some way, the EU speaks to modernity and internationalism, an idea that we don't want to go back to the old nation states permanently at war and all of the rest of it. And I understand that kind of spirit, that hope. It's a bit vague, it's a bit abstract, it's a bit nebulous, but that's not to poo-poo it, it's important. But I think if people voted Remain for those reasons, A, I think they were wrong, because I think the EU has become a protectionist bloc, but B, I hope they can marshal that energy into arguing for and insisting that Britain becomes an open, internationalist, globally free-trading nation. And I actually think that the openness, the liberalism, the sort of metropolitanism, the internationalism that we can get outside of the EU is probably even greater than that inside. It could go both ways though. So if youngsters and young people and intelligent Cambridge University undergraduates voted Remain on that basis, don't try and re-win the referendum. Try to marshal that internationalist impulse in a positive direction to make sure that Britain doesn't become a close-minded, pull-up-the-drawbridge country, but becomes once again the leading pioneer on the globe for international free trade.
Thank you very much for
your
time.
My pleasure. Sorry to be so verbose.